Ganesh.
Hi Anita.
I'm very excited, this is quite an interesting coincidence. I'm from the 10th batch and this is the 10th year for celebrating CFI's being in existence.
That's right.
And I'd love to know the story of CFI. So thank you for giving me this chance.
I'd love to share that with you.
So I'd like to ask you that first question, Ganesh. What was the inspiration behind CFI?
There are actually 2 or 3 things that really inspired us or prompted us to think of such an institution. First is that as a coach, I was practicing as a coach for almost a good 3-4 years. Before I thought of CFI. I was trained in a certain Western model of coaching and I was not very comfortable with that and I felt something was missing. I somehow had this feeling in my bones. I'm able to explain it better now than I was at that time. The feeling was that the way we seek help or what we expect from helpers, the way we would like to structure our relationship with the helper seemed somewhat different from what I had learned, and I was searching for a model that would sit well in this context. That was one huge inspiration. The second one was that in all the HR consulting work that I was doing, most of the entrepreneurs and business leaders would come and tell me, I have this HR problem. And after a fair amount of discussion, I would realize that they were actually the problem.
So true.
That it is their style of leadership, their way of looking at their organization and their team was quite often posing the challenges that they were facing, but they needed help. They had blind spots, they were alone in their challenges, and I was coming to the conclusion that if they were helped, they would make a huge difference. The third thing was that around 2005-06 was the explosive growth happening in our country. And I was seeing that people were being placed into jobs so large and so beyond their capacities that they needed help. That they were doing jobs of a global nature, they were managing a global workforce, they were managing jobs of a size and dimension that was very hard to imagine, and they needed help. All of these put together, we felt that if we can, through the power of this one-on-one support and helping relationship, make a difference to the leader development of the country, it would be terrific.
Wow, that's a fantastically, serious and yet very, very practical intent.
Yeah.
So I'm just very curious to know, what is the evolution? So what are the stages in the life of CFI?
So the first thing we wanted to do was to figure out how do we create coaching competencies that are grounded in India. So that was our first port of call. And I remember the first thing we intuitively felt was that we're dealing with human beings, and whatever work we need to do in developing coaching competencies must be grounded in the field of psychology.
I think that was fantastic.
Applied psychology, and we must borrow from other helping professions which have a strong ethical foundation, and therefore our first trip was to go and meet Dr. Prashantham in Vellore.
Very unusual way to start. I must compliment you on that.
And that was our start. And with him, he just raised the bar in terms of what ethical standards we should pursue, right? What kind of competencies we need to develop. What is the minimum acceptable level of training that a person needs to receive before he can become a coach. So that was really a very critical building block.
I would totally, be able to hand on heart ratify that as somebody who's certified with CFI, because I think what really it stood for me was high integrity, and real commitment to the coaching. And it's tough. it's tough to not get seduced, not get pulled into the agenda of the organization. And what we learned at CFI was really to ensure that you kept that integrity going. And I must say that was a fabulous experience. So what is this PG Beck? I must say I'm from the 10th batch. I'm very jealous. Every time I go back to the 11th and the 12th, I've been very fortunate to be invited back sometimes. I find that the material is constantly evolving. So would you like to tell me about that?
Yeah. So we rolled out our first batch in 2007. We are now in our 19th edition and we just opened up admissions for our 20th offering. Now, what sets our postgraduate program apart is that we are not a coach training college. We are not here to just certify people about whose whereabouts we know nothing, about whose future we don't care. We are not that. When we look at a person enrolling into our program, we want to be sure that this person can actually go out and do a paid executive coaching assignment. That's our acid test.
So it's really,
which means the client must pay for him, value him as a professional, value his competence and respect him for what he brings. Which means that whom we admit into the program is very important. I mean, take someone like you. You had a full, successful, thriving career.
Right.
You're a seasoned professional. You're bringing several decades of wisdom into your relationship. So what we added to you is only a finishing layer.
Right.
But the core was a professional competence that you are able to offer, and that is very important.
So that's really the gatepost, right? At the entry itself, that's essential that, and this evolution of material, what is
so that is one. Second is, we are a coach provider, which means we are working with clients and setting up and managing coaching engagements. As we talk, we have handled 300 paid coaching engagements.
Wow, that's a big number. I'm not sure anybody else in the city can contribute.
No, in fact, there are very few coach providers like us in the world.
That brings me to the most important question.
So, to answer your question, therefore, as a coach provider, we have deep insights into coaching engagements, about what's happening, how goals are set, how effectiveness is obtained, what kind of outcomes are possible, why coaching assignments get derailed, what contributes to effectiveness. So we are able to bring all that back into our classroom. And therefore you see that from program to program, we are able to constantly make improvements, keeping in mind ground.
I think that's really what I think brings value, because also the fact that we are continuously, in continuous education.
Absolutely.
Even at the 10th batch, we were recently in that program.
Yes.
So I think it's not ever resting, but it's constantly evolving. So that, of course, then leads me to the fact, since you said you have so many engagements, what is the reason why a corporate who's looking for coaching turns to CFI?
Right. So, first I must say this, that let's say 6-7 years ago, when we went and met a client, and we never do cold calls. We get invited to go and talk about coaching. We have to explain what is coaching, what is executive coaching, and this, that, and the other. Today we don't need to do that.
It's a big change.
A big change. People understand. People now know that a significant part of their leader development budget, it makes sense to invest that in coaching. Because it is customized, it is one-on-one, it is very targeted. That's one. So the organizational evolution on coaching has taken place, number one. Number two, organizations are now realizing that if they have to use coaching, they can go and hire 10, 12, 15 coaches who will all come from different schools, different methodologies and models. Now, a coach is a senior guy. Most talent managers, L&D managers feel somewhat challenged to ask that coach hard questions. Say, hey, tell me, is it working? What are you doing? What's your method? What's your model? Show me how far you made progress and so on. So there is a bit of opaqueness in the relationship. Therefore, more and more organizations are finding value in working with a coach provider like CFI, because once they empanel CFI CFI can then be a one-stop solution to say, you tell me your needs.
Right.
We have a panel of over 100 coaches.
Which is a big number.
We can understand your context, match the right set of coaches for you, take responsibility to set up that relationship, monitor progress, give you monthly feedback, alert you to risks, measure effectiveness, and then at the end of the engagement, sit together and see what all of us have learned out of it.
I mean, if I were a client, and I'm putting myself now in the shoes of a client, having run a company, I think that is the most important question that every client, even the ones I'm in organization that I'm, is, all right, so where did it, take the organization, how did it help the organization, and how did it help the individual?
Absolutely.
I would like to add one more thing that I feel is our differentiator.
Right.
I think our uniqueness also lies in that Indian model you said.
Yeah.
Because you know what, I really feel that there are far too many certifications, and I'm sure they're all wonderful. I currently have a guest who's coming from the UK, and she's a cross-cultural coach. But I found when I was discussing our model, it is really that uniqueness which is setting context as Indians. And therefore, as you said, Dr. Prashantam A lifted it, and your own vision at CFI made us unique.
Absolutely.
I would like to add one more dimension.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what, Ganesh? I believe that one of the things I'd like to add to the uniqueness of CFI, if I were a company, why would I choose you? So I'm dealing with global organizations, is because how Indian our model. And it's taken the best of all worlds and made it so specifically Indian and relevant.
Absolutely.
So I'd like you to say something about that.
So if you look at the Western world, coaching has come on the back of perhaps several years of people seeking help, therapeutic help, right? So everyone has been to a counselor, a therapist, a shrink, as they say. So when they therefore perhaps created the coaching model, they took some elements of therapy, which is 45 minutes per session, pay per session, show some outcomes for each session, confidentiality, strict boundaries of what you include and don't include, and so on. And therefore, that is what got imported into our country.
Right.
Whereas you look at the average Indian, he has never sought help from any formal sources. He would go to an uncle, he would go to his ex-boss, family, friends, and so on. Therefore, when we seek help, we are looking for someone who's more like a mentor. Which is why I call our model a mentor plus model, and I call the Western model a therapy minus model. So we look for help in someone who looks older to us by age, brings wisdom, who doesn't have strict boundaries, who can give some guidance if required, who will not say this is work, this is profession, this is personal, and I will not mix it, and so on and so forth.
I can see it in our own practice. That's what we do.
So if somebody brings an issue which is challenging him personally, we will not say, oh, that is the problem of a life coach and this is the job of an executive coach. We see him as one whole complete person.
I think that's really, going forward, I think that's what maybe we need to highlight to our clients.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that may be one of the answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going forward takes us to where are we going in the next 10 years?
So many exciting things. The first thing is that for a long time when coaching was fighting for its legitimacy, so to speak, it was always important for coaches to say, no, we are better than mentors, we're different from mentors, and this is not mentoring and so on. I'm beginning to see that coaches need to leverage mentoring. In an organizational context, we are now increasingly seeing that our coaches are working with mentors. There are things that a coach does to help the coachee figure out what he needs to do, set goals, set agendas, work towards attaining those, but also take the help of a mentor who can provide the internal systemic perspective. So that's the first thing of how do we integrate these two sources of help in an organizational context, number one. Number two, Coaching will at best address the needs of that small 5% in an organization.
Right.
Does it mean others in the organization don't need help? Of course they do. And coaching is too expensive.
Right.
Therefore, CFI sees a huge need to promote coaching capabilities within organizations.
And there's great, I think clients have started to express.
Very much. And again, doing it in a very contextually appropriate way is important. For example, we believe that you can train senior executives in organizations to become internal coaches and mentors. I visit many organizations and they all tell them, I'm a coach, I'm an internal coach and mentor, I've been certified, look at the certificate, look at this binder. I ask him, what have you done about it? He says, well, I haven't done anything about it.
Yeah, I think that's, it's like just a tick mark.
Yeah. The reason is, there is good intention, but a very senior executive who is in a highly demanding job is just not going to find the time. So we believe that the best internal coaches and mentors will be perhaps 55 years of age, who spend the next 3 years getting off the ramp and playing a supportive role.
It's choosing those people who are ready to give back to the company.
Absolutely, that is important. Third, at the next level, at the operating level, we see that coaching and mentoring is becoming a fundamental managerial competence.
Okay.
Which means we don't expect them to have formal coaching sessions, but we expect them to demonstrate coaching orientation in their everyday work.
So that's a huge opportunity for us.
Huge opportunity and a huge need. And I think even a responsibility as a pioneering institution to promote that within organizations.
So are we creating packages?
Absolutely. So we are looking at how do we create managers as barefoot coaches?
Okay.
How do we create internal coaching and mentoring support systems within organizations? How do we even help integrate coaching oriented solutions to promote leader development?
Okay.
That's
a lovely roadmap.
Yes. So I think coaching is becoming very central to leader development. There is an increasing recognition that the journey of leader development is a very personal journey.
And no one size fits all.
No one size fits all. And that's where coaching can become a huge enabler.
And because now we are willing, so at one stage we were clear that this is how we will do it.
Right.
And as time has moved, we have continuously, to use my favorite word, acclimatized
Ourselves to varying altitudes, right?
Yes.
And therefore broadened our offerings,
right,
and learned to innovate and see what are the new and different ways in which we can make the differences in a more inclusive way.
Wow. Now that's made me feel more excited because I now look forward to being part of all these other initiatives.
And finally, the question I ask myself every day is, look, firstly, our immediate customers are our coaches.
Right.
Are our coaches happy belonging to CFI? Have we launched them into successful and meaningful careers? The answer is absolutely yes. Are we adding value to them year on year? Absolutely yes. And when that happens, we are very certain that our end customer, the corporate organizations, are excited because we are offering them world-class coaches.
Yeah, I must say that I've learned so much in the last 2 years, post 4 years ago when I was certified. So I think I look forward to each program that we keep holding, and all the interesting activity that each chapter brings into the. So I think there's a lot of community.
Yeah, and all of you have been part of this wonderful extended team of CFI, and through your support, really, CFI has been able to go places.
Well, this is really the best moment to be on the 10th year cusp.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to really new exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ganesh.
All of us, thanks.
Thanks.